One was I learned how to sell. I got a system and I stopped looking at myself as just the business owner, but I also saw myself as the salesperson, because you can't teach somebody else to sell if you don't understand your own system and process. So I did that. I learned how to sell and I absolutely loved it. Running a business is going to be freaking hard. And if it's not hard, it has no value. You've got to go through the pain, because otherwise the success will be meaningless. It's going to be hard. And when it's hard, you're going to feel like giving up. And you need tools to stop yourself from giving up, to keep yourself motivated. And a morning routine is the most powerful tool that I've come across to help with that mindset.
Grant, welcome to the Hassan Bash show. I'm so excited to have you on the show because you, as an entrepreneur that's been in the journey not once, but more than once, had businesses, left businesses. I can't wait to uncover the stories and the journey that you have went through. Welcome to the show, man.
Absolute pleasure to be here.
Awesome, man. Grant, I want to start the discussion around diving deep into your story today. Like, I want you to take us back to the beginning of the journey. What were some of the earliest ventures that you began that drove you to pursue this thing called entrepreneurship?
Yeah, that takes me back. So I'm one of those guys that I've always wanted to be a business owner. So I think inspired mainly by my dad was a business owner. So he had a building business, and do you know what? He hated it. Absolutely hated it. I still remember, he would get up in the mornings and just not look forward. They got very early in the building trade, not look forward to going to work. And he had a good business, thriving business. He was very successful. But he never wanted me to follow in his footsteps, despite the fact that, I wanted to be a business owner from, as far back as I can remember. I wanted to be an astronaut, then a business owner. But he was insistent. He wouldn't let me go into his business. So I carved out my own path. So I had it all mapped out. So if you had asked me as like a 12-year-old what I wanted to do, it was pretty much what I did. So I wanted to be a graphic designer or an illustrative graphic designer at the time. I was going to go to college, then university, get a job, learn from somebody else, and then start my own business from about the age of 12. And that's pretty much what I did. So I followed the template. The only caveat is I stayed in that job much longer than I expected. So I was actually, when I finally went full-time in business, which was a marketing agency, I was 29 years old. And the reason for that was that the job that I'd had was a good job, and they kept promising me shares in the business, directorship. And so that was, the compensation. But it never quite felt right. And I did get to that stage in the business, but it still wasn't mine. So 29 years old, I handed in my notice finally. Yeah, gave them the keys to my car and rented an office, bought a couple of computers, and set up my marketing agency in 2001. And that was the start.
That was the beginning of the journey. That's when a lot of digital marketing agency, it was like 2001 is like the best time to have a digital marketing agency.
Yeah, it was exciting. It was. Yeah. So I set my first business. I set up with a business partner, which was kind of like, I think a lot of people do this, that they sort of, they want to share the risk. And that was certainly my thinking. And part of the reason why I waited so long is we originally were going to start up sort of 2 years prior to that. And just as we were setting up in business, my business partner had a near fatal car accident, and he was really close to, nearly died. And he had a bad head injury, and it took him a long time to recuperate. So I kind of waited for him, and then we went into business. And 2001, I think it was January, February 2001. I was the designer. So I was a graphic designer. So I had my Mac and I was doing the work. And I brought a few clients with me. In fact, there's a story to that. So one of my main clients was a big company, big automotive retailer in the UK. I won't name names in case I say anything illegal. Because there's legalities involved in this one.
Okay, I love that. Let's go.
And so I kind of, I did a deal with them where I said to my existing company, who I was managing quite a few accounts, I said, look, I am going to go and set up my own business. I want it to be amicable. I want to take one client with me, and the rest I promise I won't touch. So they agreed. So I took that one client, and it was this large automotive retailer. However, there was kind of one job that has sort of started, not started, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
that ended up coming over to me. So I got a phone call from my ex-boss, who was a legend. He was a great guy. And he said, I think we need to have a chat. And he came round to my office and he said, there's this job. We think that's our job and you've taken it with you. And that wasn't part of the deal. We'd already started it. And he threatened to sue me. So it was quite a big job. So we came to an arrangement where I effectively paid him a chunk of money to say, I'll keep the job. Don't sue me. It's my first year of business. Let's keep it friendly. And we're still friends now, actually. He's a great guy. And that's what we did. So that was my first year of business. Nearly got sued, but not quite. And so we ended up doing that job. And then, of course, September of that year, the whole world changed. So I remember I was in my office, first year of business, 9/11. I'm sat there with the TV on, seeing it all kick off, and with my business partner at the time. And we'd had a good few months up to that point. But 9/11 really affected business, Everybody was really nervous after that. And because nobody knew what was going to happen. We thought, a lot of people thought it was World War III kicking off. And for months after that, it was tough in business. So, and I remember that everybody remembers where they were if they were old enough for 9/11. And I remember sat in my little office with the TV on going, what the hell's going on here? My first year of business. And then it was just before that, I'd found out that my wife was pregnant with her first child.
Wow.
Eventful year, 2001. So new business, first child, 9/11. And then the partnership broke apart. My business partner and I separated. So by Christmas of my first year in business, I was then running it on my own. And that was another payoff I had to make, all in my first year. Nearly got sued. So yeah, it was a good way of getting my entrepreneurial stripes the first year of business.
What kept the resilience in you? What kept that mindset in you? Did you have a mentor? Were you listening to something? What kept you at that time when everything is, breaking down?
For me, I was living the dream. So, because for me, it was like, this was 5 years too late. So I was running on adrenaline, I remortgaged my house. So when I set up that business, I remortgaged my house. I took the chunk of money, I put it in the business, and I knew I had 6 months to survive. And if it didn't work out after 6 months, that was it. So, but I actually brought a lot of business to the first year. We traded really well.
And this is where you were selling websites and design, was that?
So websites was quite a small part of what we did, but yeah, I was dipping my toe. It was Flash websites back then. Remember those?
Oh my God. Yeah. Took me back for a second right there.
Yeah, websites. Yeah, I loved them. They still look cool now. We're just a bit slow. And it was a lot of design for print. So I used to do catalogs. I used to design catalogs. And we used to do sub-sites. So back then, it was a lot of sub-sites. I used to do a lot of photography. It was old school back then, cutouts. And so because I was the graphic designer, I actually brought the vast majority of the business. So I got the business in, but then ended up doing the work as well. So I used to have a sofa in the office. I used to sleep on the sofa and then, work till really late and then get up really early and carry on working. So I ended up kind of doing everything. And that's really why the partnership broke down, because I felt like it was a bit one-sided. And I didn't really hold any resentment. It was just that was just a fact. So that kind of kept me going, because the business was going well. We were doing good business. So that fuels, you know, I've got this saying, I still use it today, sales cures all. You know, if you're making money and you're making sales, you can put up with a lot. Yeah.
100%. You know, okay, this is a really important part for the listeners and the people that are listening to this point, because this is where the story has a lot of weight. Now, you said something about sales. What was it that in those 6 months, I mean, you were all in, but in those 6 months in sales, how did you get those leads? What was the strategy? Did you have a strategy, or was it just cold calling? Was it networking? What was the thing that got you the transition of flood of leads or referrals?
So my journey in sales has been a real journey. So back then, I was just so motivated by being successful. I would speak to anybody, meet anybody anywhere, it was literally whatever it takes. I was hungry, you know, I was the dog chasing the meat truck, like a proper tiger going for it, you know. And so it was fueled on adrenaline, but I had no strategy because in my head, I wasn't a sales guy. You know, my business partner was the sales guy and he was a proven sales guy. I was a graphic designer and an account manager. You know, that was what I'd done in the past. So really the way I got those sales, it was literally, I just got in touch, made phone calls, booked an appointment and just pitched. But I didn't have a process. So it was, Alex Hormozy talks about this. He says he would take somebody who was absolutely dedicated to and totally in love with the product over a salesperson who's got all the tricks up his sleeve and all the systems and processes, but doesn't love the product. So I believed in me because I knew I was going to be delivering it as well. So I was selling it and delivering it. So I knew I could rely on the product because I was going to do it. So if I'm sat there in a meeting saying to somebody, I'm going to do X, Y, Z, I was going to actually do it. By the end of that year, you know, I had 2 or 3 people working for me and I was managing them and doing the work myself as well. But I knew I could deliver. So that fires you, that, you know, drives you. But my sales journey, you know, I hit a plateau. So that business did really well, but I really hit a plateau. The point at which I kind of reached my capacity in terms of being able to run a business, do the sales, and spin all the other plates. And I tried to recruit salespeople, but because I didn't really have a process myself, it didn't work. And felt like I was banging my head up against a brick wall. And I lost my confidence. I lost my confidence. I really did. To the point where, and this happened a few times, where I'd be doing a presentation and I'd have a proper wobble, like a panic attack doing presentations. Not good at all. And didn't know what was wrong with me because I've always been very confident and couldn't quite put my finger on it. And so I knew I had to do something about it. And there was two ways I solved, two ways I solved it. One was I learned how to sell. I got a system and I stopped looking at myself as just the business owner, but I also saw myself as the salesperson, because you can't teach somebody else to sell if you don't understand your own system and process. So I did that. I learned how to sell and I absolutely loved it. And then the second thing I did was I learned how to do public speaking. And I actively tried to cure my fear of what was public speaking, because it got so bad. I went to a networking event, and you know, you go to these networking events and you do like a round the table where you stand up and do your 30 seconds.
Correct. Yes.
So I went to one of those, a breakfast meeting, and before it got round to me, I legged it. I was that bad. I couldn't stand up and do 30-second pitch in front of people. And I'd been in business a few years at that point.
Wow. What made you lose the confidence?
I don't know. I think it was because I hit a plateau and I didn't know how to push past it. And in answer to your earlier question, I didn't have a coach or a mentor other than my dad. You know, my dad's a great mentor. But he never had to, he was a builder, you know, he never had to do the stuff that I had to do. So yeah, I think that's what it was. And so when I got myself a coach and a process and a system, that's when I really felt like I became a proper entrepreneur.
Doing the boring work, what I hear.
Yeah, making cold calls, learning a system and a process, getting right outside my comfort zone, like, properly talk about having a panic attack, like putting yourself in the fire. Well, you're going to have one. Yeah.
100%. So you yourself, you went back to cold calling.
Yeah. Yeah. And accountability for it. And like having somebody stood over me while I do it.
That's amazing. One
Yeah.
thing that I want to kind of like come back to, because I wrote a note about it. You said believing in me, loving the product, loving the service that you deliver. These two things are very dangerous. Very dangerous in what you said just now. People might take this and it just goes from one ear to the other ear. That thing, what you just said, believing in you and saying loving the product, that these two things is the main thing that basically got you to where you're at. And that's why the people that are listening, believing in yourself, having the confidence and the commitment to force the journey that you're doing is that was the thing for you, which is awesome. That's huge. That is so huge. Because you already had, like, again, you believed in yourself. But again, what happened is the transition, there's a plateau that happened through that journey because you had to come back and believe in yourself again.
Yep. Yeah. Big time. Yeah.
Because the thing is, this journey of entrepreneurship, sometimes you'll lose your confidence. Sometimes you're going to not believe in yourself as much as you did before. There's these journeys, there's these seasons.
There are.
And we have to come and acquire our belief system, acquire our confidence and commitment. Isn't it interesting?
It is. You almost have to earn it, I mean, you've almost got to I always think mindset is the biggest part of being about an entrepreneur. And if you don't, I always think when I used to get panic attacks, it was like an out-of-body experience because I'd be looking at myself going, why is this happening? There's no logical reason for me to feel anxiety about presenting my products and services. What's causing that to happen? And if you can't, from my perspective, if I couldn't intellectualize it and I let the physical situation I was in dictate my mindset, I'd be screwed. But I was able to go, look, this is happening to me. There's a way of fixing it. I've just got to apply myself, because so that inner belief was there. But physically, it obviously wasn't. There was something there that was causing me to lack confidence in my ability or whatever it was. I think a lot of people, they refer to it as imposter syndrome. And I think that's what happened with me. I had massive ambitions. I hit a plateau. And then I'm starting to look around going, well, why can't I get past this plateau? It must be me.
And what changed it? You went back, got coached, hired different people, systemized the business, started to cold call again with the team to show them how it works so that you can actually multiply yourself.
Exactly.
Time, so that you can head beyond the plateau.
Yes. But I did it myself on my own first to start with. So I got rid of all my salespeople.
Oh, wow.
So I downsized the business and did it myself. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. That's awesome, man. This was a great first segment. I love this beginning of the segment. This was great, man. Moving forward to one of the things you mentioned, shiny object syndrome and drawing inspiration from Elon Musk specifically. How did these factors shape your journey? And can you share a bit about the challenges you encountered while juggling multiple businesses in the same time?
Yeah. So I think, for me personally, and I think this goes for a lot of entrepreneurs, the exciting bit is the startup, the beginning of something, the new shiny idea, that exciting, wow, what could we do with this idea? That's brilliant. Let's do that, So I've had that experience many, many times. And not least because when you're in marketing, as I'm sure you're well aware, lots of people present things to you and say, look, if you can do the branding and the website and the, XYZ, I'll give you the idea, you do that, we'll build this thing together, And I've had that happen a lot of times to me. And I think I was much more disciplined when I first started out because I was focused on the one thing. I hadn't had the experience. But as soon as I had a couple of successes, I very quickly jumped in. I think I was probably about 3 years in when I started up my second business. And I always had a couple of little things on the side, which was a recruitment consultancy. And it was recruiting in the creative industry. So there was a synergy. And it started because I needed freelancers. I recruited freelancers. And then one of those freelancers actually was a recruitment consultant. Long story short, we went into business together. That was the first business. It actually went really well. It was a great business. And there was a synergy because there were connections. Where I went wrong in hindsight is when I started businesses that had nothing to do with my core business. And, you know, some of those were just a massive distraction. Some of them were brilliant fun, and some of them were, you know, really exciting. But in hindsight, I should have stuck to either the one core business and get it to the point where I could afford to have distractions and keeping them, you know, within the connected sphere of the main business, like I did with the recruitment consultancy, because that was a good business, and it was synergistic because, you know, it could supply me with staff as well as, you know, I understood the business and I didn't have to run it. Somebody else was running it. So that was a good business. But yeah, so over the years, I've run businesses, recruitment consultants. I've had a couple of those. I've been involved with more than one franchise style business, mobile gaming, supercar experiences, a lot of car related businesses. I'm a bit of a petrol head. So a lot of car businesses. Had a pub and a brewery and
Wow.
yeah, lots of other, you know, half-built bridges.
Oh man. So eventually that led you to establish a digital marketing agency. What prompted you to transition? And how did your prior experiences from that decision to pursue specifically on building the marketing agency? I mean, looking at the lesson learned, reflecting on your journey, what are some of the most profound lessons you have basically both in success, both in your business and failures? Have these lessons continued to help you understand like the journey more?
Yeah, I mean, I've got no complaints, I've got to admit. You know, I've had an awesome entrepreneurial journey. And in hindsight, I could have seen a lot more success, but I don't think I would have had that much more fun. So I've got, you know, I've got no real complaints. My marketing agency has always been the constant. So throughout that journey from 2001 until now, I've always had a marketing agency in one form or another, because a marketing agency gives me the ability to, you know, get other stuff done in other businesses. So that's always been the constant, and it's always been my foundation. It just so happens that right now I am hyper focused on this one because I'm a big believer in, I just want to focus on this one thing now, because I feel like anything else would be a distraction right now.
So let's get into running the digital marketing agency. I want you to please, Grant, if you could tell us more about your digital marketing agency and what unique approach or values it brings to the table to the marketplace.
So back when I had my first agency, which was the one I ran that for 13, might have been 14 years, it was focused on helping medium to large businesses. And so I dealt with marketing managers, you know, or marketing directors of large businesses, largest businesses. So I was dealing with professionals. In 2009/10, I set up an app development company. And with my app developer figured out a way, and they were fresh out the box then, of developing apps for small businesses at a low cost. Scaled that business really quickly, franchised it. Great, had brilliant success with that business. And it was the first time that I'd had experience of working with small businesses. And I absolutely loved it, because all of a sudden, instead of dealing with a marketing manager who's, you know, relying on the directors and the board, you know, to make decisions, I was dealing with decision makers, people like me, other small business owners. And so I absolutely loved it. And so as that business progressed, I looked at my own marketing agency. I thought, you know what? I hated the corporate, you know, side of things. I hate corporate hierarchy. and all the people scared of their jobs and upsetting their boss and just trying to backstab each other and hate corporate lingo and all that nonsense. You know, it's just not me. But when you speak to proper entrepreneurs, people like us, you know, that aren't running a big corporate, sat on a board trying to, you know, impress the rest of everybody else, I loved it. So I pivoted my my main marketing agency to start dealing with these smaller businesses. And that's really where Blam was born, because it was just at the time, it was 2014, it was just at the time where websites were also, the first drag and drop web builders were coming out. I saw a gap in the market and I thought, do you know what? Because we've been building websites. You build a website, it's 10 grand minimum. And then, you know, whatever you charge thereafter. Small businesses were like 10,000, you know, and it was a big hit for them to get a website built. When the drag and drop builders came out, you could do a website really cost effectively. It didn't cost a fortune. So I just went all in. I said, right, we've got loads of customers that are small businesses now, buy apps off us. Let's sell them these websites. So we did the same thing we did with apps. Let's do it with websites. Cheap websites, but good quality en masse. So we did that and we sold a load of them. And I was running a franchise anyway. So I'm like, well, let's franchise it, except the problem that I had in franchising, and I'd had a couple before, a successful franchise, we had well over 100 franchisees, we'd gone international and whatnot, was that you get some bad franchisees, they tarnish your brand, and it's difficult to get rid of them. So I said, let's just be the brand behind the brand. So when we sell a franchise, instead of it being like, you know, Blam New York or, you know, Blam wherever, let's give them their own brand. They come up with their own brand and they can be a partner. So it's like a licensing agreement. But we'll still build the websites. We'll still do all the work for them. We'll do all the back office. We'll do the SEO and anything they want us to do. We'll get the systems and processes. We'll train them. But it's their brand that fronts it. And if they want to call themselves a Blam partner and let their customers know that they're a Blam partner, and that's up to them. But we'll be behind the scenes and we'll show them how to scale. Because the brilliant thing about the drag and drop web builders and the way that we now operate, it's a monthly recurring revenue and it's regular business and it's sticky. So you can build a marketing agency servicing small to medium-sized businesses with a recurring revenue that's really sticky. And a Blam partner can have 100 customers and still just be on their own because we're doing all the delivery. So for me, it scratched a number of itches. It meant that I could scale a big business. I could have thousands of websites. I like big vision. My goal is let's be the #1 website design agency in the world. Let's build more websites than anybody else. Let's do it by selling loads of partners that use us as the reseller, and we'll sell to them. Let's show them and train them how to do it. And let's give small business owners the tools they need to scale a business. And so that's what we did. So we set up in 2015, and I wouldn't say it's been a straight line to success. It's not been completely smooth. We've had our ups and downs.
Of course.
But I love it. Absolutely love it. You know.
So basically,
and that's what we are.
So basically, there's two sides of the business. There's the licensing, where you get to help other marketers own helping them with the delivery better. Is that correct?
Yeah. So imagine we have two sides of the business. So one side would be somebody thinks, right, I want to set up my own marketing agency. They could have a full-time job already, you know, or they might be looking at business opportunities or franchises, and we can help them do that. So it's like buying a franchise from somebody that might not necessarily know anything about marketing or sales or anything else. And we will train them and show them how to do it, set them all up, build their business, and then do all the delivery for them when they get customers.
That's amazing.
That's our one side to the business. And then the other side is existing agencies that need help with fulfillment, because we can produce websites at scale. We can produce, you know, hundreds of websites at a time. But then also we can do SEO, social media, you know, all the connected ads, etc. All of that can be delivered as well. And so when we met in Vegas earlier this year,
yes,
that was starting to promote more heavily to existing agencies. because up until now, we've really only targeted people as a business opportunity.
Got you. And now the target market is more specifically working with marketing agencies.
Yeah, I would say we're dipping our toe in the water. We haven't gone full on with it. We're dipping our toe in the water. So at the moment, we've got a few that have joined us, but that is a huge marketplace for us. And I think, a big opportunity and something that, I'm really excited to push forward this year.
That's awesome. And when did the opportunity or the idea came to your mind? We're like, we're an agency, we would love to franchise, but, the brand, the reputation, it's not the best idea. What made you transition from franchise to licensing?
It was because I had a really bad experience with my other franchise. It was really, really difficult. And it taught me an awful lot about, well, lots of things to do with business, but more specifically, development. So we had a big bespoke development that didn't go according to plan. A big group of franchisees, some of which weren't necessarily on our side, which caused an awful lot of trouble. And yeah, despite, my best efforts, was not able to control, the way they did business. And that was under our brand. And I don't really like the idea of trying to control people too much, because I had empathy for them. They're business owners. And with a franchise, everything is designed around protecting the brand, the systems and the processes, kind of rightly so. But I did have a lot of empathy for the franchisees. And so when I set up Blam, I didn't want to have to control them that much. So if they weren't operating under our brand, they can choose whatever pricing model they like. They can use us for as many services as they like, but if they want to outsource to somebody else, no problem, because they've got their own business and they operate under their own brand. And therefore, it isn't a reflection on the Blam brand, what they do. So what we do is just provide them with the tools they need, and it's up to them whether they choose to use them or not.
I love that. That is awesome, man. And for the marketing or entrepreneurs that are listening to this, are they able to, can you help them with their website, even though they're not an agency?
Yeah. So, I mean, ultimately, we are a marketing agency, that's what we do. It's just that our focus is on servicing other agencies. And so we still do direct business because, my main role now is basically a coach. So I coach, our partners. And so I wouldn't feel confident coaching if I wasn't still making sales myself. If I didn't still pick up the phone now and again, if I didn't still practice what I preach. So I still do that. And so hence I still make sales. I still test. We've got new products that we're launching at the moment. So I'm going out selling, testing them so I can put the training courses together and say, this is how you sell it. So yeah, we're always open to business. The main thing we don't do though, is because we're a bit like a franchise, we don't undercut our partners. So, our partners kind of buy from us at the wholesale rate because we produce large quantities of websites, SEO, etc. When I sell directly, I should sell at the same price that a partner sells at. And, sometimes.
That's awesome, man. And talking about services that in the world of marketing agencies, what do you think, the best, I don't know if there's a best, but the best offers that an agency could possibly offer to the marketplace today?
So there's quite a few. Obviously, the world is very excited about AI at the moment. And so there's tons of AI tools out there, and I'm absolutely fascinated by it. It's kind of like, it's my new hobby. I just love it. It's so cool. So just some really basic AI integrations with chatbots can do wonders, so we can do we use high level, so we can integrate their AI chatbot, train it up, and basically you're covered across all your social media comments. Everything is covered all in one place. But you still can't beat a good quality, well-designed, sexy website. I'm a graphic designer at heart. I can't help myself. I'm still persuaded by good design, and we can't do that with AI just yet. I'm sure it's not too far away, but we can do certain things with AI, but we still have to polish it with a good designer, and get it looking good. But our new hot product is something we call hyperlocal SEO. And this is kind of the first stage of search. So in Google My Business, when you do a search, localized search, and you get, Google Places come up. So you get the map, and then what you call the 3-pack. So you get your first 3 listings localized. Kind of been working really hard on figuring out the algorithm to get people to rank in that 3-pack. For first and foremost, they want to be right on top of themselves in their local area. But then you can do a grid pattern. And as you go broader, we can get them to rank further out as well. So that product is flying out the door at the moment for us. We're selling it like hotcakes because it is just an awesome product and it's really reliable. So,
And it's called local, is it local SEO?
Yeah, so it's effectively specific to Google My Business. So your Google Places.
Yes.
So we optimize that listing for the area that the company is based, because quite often they're not even number 1 in their own area. And then you can move the radius out and get it so that if people are, in and around the local area, they'll get it to search. So somebody's walking around, usually mobile, they'll do a search and they might go, restaurants near me. And then you'll get the first 3 crop up.
Yes.
It's getting them to rank in that first 3 for as broader audience as we can. So
and for businesses to rank there, I'm not quite sure, but one of my clients that is working with another agency said something towards like, he was talking to Google and Google said, if you're posting pictures on a weekly basis on Google My Business, that helps your rank. Is that true?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And we went through a year of trial and error to try and figure this out. And it was painstaking. And so our secret sauce, I'm not giving it away because it took us ages to figure it out. But we started last February and we launched it last month. That's how long it took us. But we had 100 case studies to figure it out. And we nailed it. And it works anywhere in the world because you can't trick Google. They'll find out and then you've gone. So you've got to be legit with Google. And really what Google's looking for is somebody that is willing to deliver the right information when we do a search. And so, yes, pictures is one of it, but there's all sorts of other variables and it's very time consuming for us. So it's a lot of work. So we've managed to systemize it as much as we can. And we've got an office in Johannesburg that is scaling rapidly at the moment, where we do all our delivery. And that keeps costs a bit lower for us. And it means that we can scale. So we're at the moment recruiting massively and filling an office that is, on the trajectory to be full of people so that we can deliver that product.
I love that, man. That's really sick. Thank you so much for sharing that, because I've been hearing a lot more about this Google My Business stuff. It's really interesting. It's been it's like
and the brilliant thing for us is, somebody does a search, they land on the Google My Business, they're either going to phone you, they're going to do map and directions, or they're going to go to the website. And so for us, that's brilliant, right? We'll build the website. They go onto the website, you then got a conversion tool, you've got high level connected to it. We're big high level advocates, and you've got a marketing machine, and it's brilliant. It all starts with a search, and you know how much search there is. So marketing can be very overly complicated. I love this because it's dead simple. Loads of people do a local search. So let's get them in front of people and then give them a choice. Do you want to phone? And if they phone, we can plug that into high level. And if it's a business like, I don't know, might say it's a chiropractor or a dentist and you can't answer the phone, we can do a missed call text back automation where the chatbot then books an appointment, and that's all through high level. And we get the whole system working all from that initial Google search. So for me, I love it.
I love that journey, man. Thank you so much. Grant, as we wrap up, is there anything else would you like to share about your journey or perspective on entrepreneurship and marketing?
So I guess the main thing I want to say, really, just to anybody that's listening who might be a budding entrepreneur, which is, I deal with a lot of them, is, it's loads harder than you think it's going to be, but it's really worth it. But don't go into it thinking that, it's all Lamborghinis and, working from Dubai or whatever, because you get that at the end, when you've made it, it's not on the way up.
Yes.
The road to that is exciting, but my motto is work like a maniac. It's the only way.
I love what you just said. Can you say that one more time?
Yeah, work like a maniac.
Okay. some entrepreneurs need to hear that, really. Some of the
Oh,
entrepreneurs and founders need to hear that, because if you want to get what you want, you, other than, of course, having the right mindset, having the right that side, but also there's the work. You can't be just like praying and it's like, things are gonna happen. No, there's that, but also there's the other side too. Let's not forget about it. Now, how do you strike balance between promoting your services and maintaining authenticity in your messaging?
well, if you believe in your services, it's authentic, isn't it? So basically, just don't sell anything you don't believe in. It's easy.
How do you talk to an entrepreneur that is just starting and has a few clients maybe? How do you, give them that? How do they acquire that confidence?
Well, mindset is a big part of it. It is mindset, So I always say, first and foremost, my number one tip, I do a lot of coaching of entrepreneurs, and I will say the most powerful tool that I preach to them about, and I say preach intentionally because I do feel like I'm a preacher sometimes. Morning routine, a morning routine. I read the book, The Miracle Morning, some years ago, and I love a morning routine because you got to wake up with the right mindset. You're never going to wake up every morning, whistling zippity doo dah, and saying everything's going to be brilliant. Some mornings you're not even going to feel like getting out of bed. You've got to, those are the days that are the most important. You apply your morning routine, and everybody has a different routine, but as long as you've got one, and it just sorts this out, because running a business is going to be freaking hard. And if it's not hard, it has no value. You've got to go through the pain, because otherwise the success will be meaningless. It's going to be hard. And when it's hard, you're going to feel like giving up, and you need tools to stop yourself from giving up, to keep yourself motivated. And a morning routine is the most powerful tool that I've come across to help with that mindset. There's loads of other things, but that is the one thing that I would urge any budding entrepreneur: get a morning routine.
There's a few people that talk about, having deep work and flow work and all this other stuff. I wanted to get this perspective from you. Do you suggest on what has worked for you to wake up? The moment you wake up, the first thing you do is work.
So depends what your class as work.
Okay.
So when I wake up, I lie on my back and I imagine my day, and I know what I'm going to do because I've checked my to-do list the day before.
Exactly.
So I visualize my day and I try and think of positive things. Then my routine kicks in, which is, now for me, I never keep my phone by my bed. It's always in another room. So I do check my phone as an early part of the day, because I deal with people all around the world, and sometimes, they'll have messaged me in the night. And so I get back, check there's anything urgent. But then my routine kicks in, and, I put positive music on. So I go onto YouTube. You go onto YouTube, you write feel-good music. It will give you loads of music. So I put that on. That gets my vibe going. I go downstairs. I've got a little routine that I do. I like to make my fresh coffee. I'll grind my beans. I make my coffee. I get a little bit of cream. It's my little indulgence. And I'll make my coffee. Then I'll go and sit in my front room, and I will write down my goals every day. I've got books that are just, full of it. Got one down here. So that's my book. Keep it with me. So that I wrote this morning. Every day, this is me writing my goals down. And you will notice the big one says 1 million websites. So that is my big goal.
Is every day, are you writing your goal, like, is it the same exact goal every day?
So what happens is I've got my main goals down here, which are my Blam goals, which I write that page first, which finishes with 1 million websites. And then these are my personal goals. And my personal goals I set at the beginning of the year. So I get, anybody I'm coaching will know this. I've got a set of goals that I do, 7 different goals for the year. And they're based around 7 specifics. So it's money, business, learning, giving, relationships, fun. What one of them missed out? Health. So I set goals for those each year. And then I say what the goal is, why I've done it. And then each day, there's usually a different action that happens specifically for that day to achieve that goal.
Every day there's a different goal, but it's like specific focus of what you're focusing on that specific day.
Yeah, I mean, Depends on the goal, because sometimes, it's more generic because I'm working towards something. And so, for example, my fun goal, I've pretty much achieved that already this year, because it was a holiday that I'm doing with my son, and I've booked it, everything's done, and then we'll go and do that holiday in January. July, beg your pardon. So, that goal's pretty much done. So I just write it down and tick it. So yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Do you do any like gratitude affirmation stuff also in the morning?
So what I've got is I've got an app called Think Up, and you record your affirmations into it and it plays it back to you. So I listen to that whilst I'm in the shower.
Nice. These are really good tips, man. I mean, these are really good tips that the crazy people, the wealthy, crazy people that do it. Do you have a vision board? That's awesome. That
It's
is
at the
awesome.
side of my desk, yeah.
That's awesome, man. So Think Up is an app that you record your affirmations so that it tells your affirmations back to you.
Yeah, so you write them out, then you record them, and then it plays it back to you on a loop. It's a great app. I've been using it for years.
And
And
it's called Think Up, right?
Think Up, yeah. And I tell you, speaking of crazy entrepreneurs, I got that from Dan Pena. You heard of Dan Pena?
Of course, of course. Dan
Yeah,
Pena is pretty, out there.
he's out there, yeah. So I went to one of his live shows, and that was one of the tools that he recommended.
Okay, got you. Would you say, is that one of your favorite mentors or a person that kind of give you a different perspective of life?
Yeah, do you know what? I went through a phase where I loved him. He's a foul-mouthed dude. He's very aggressive, but he's a maniac, and I like maniacs. So yeah.
Exactly, exactly. And he talked about the thing about affirmations and listening to your affirmations within your own voice in the morning consistently.
Yes. And he
And
talks about something that I love called smelling the leather. So
mm,
I did this. He said when he was young, he went to a Rolls-Royce dealership, and he sat in the car, even though he couldn't afford it. And he sat there and smelt the leather. And I remember doing that myself. I went and when I did that, because I'm a bit of a car guy. So went and sat in the Porsche dealership, and sat in there and imagined myself. And it's weird. The day I bought my first brand new Porsche, I milked the hell out of it because I remembered all the times that I'd been there, smelling the leather. So the day I actually got one brand new was like, wow, yeah, this stuff works.
that's so cool. Is there any engineering your affirmation? Like, for example, Bob Proctor says, I am so happy and grateful that, da, 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 da. Is there an
Yeah.
engineer aspect that you have that you got from Dan Pena that is different than Bob Proctor or other affirmation?
No, not really, because I've been doing it for so many years. I mean, interestingly, I cleared out my office yesterday, and that book that I just showed you, I've got dozens of these. I've been doing it for years, so I kind of do it in my own way,
Yeah.
and so that and literally the affirmation is just like one of the goals for the year, but as if it's already happened. So, it's like, I am, Blam has 1 million websites, helps entrepreneurs every day, that kind of thing,
That's
So,
amazing. And it's like as if you already have it.
yeah, you've got to say it as if you've already had it. And Bob Proctor's a good one. Blam Partner, this is one of my affirmations. Blam Partners are known as the best digital marketers in small businesses, a safe pair of hands to turn a consistent quality, great results and great value. I have a team of A players. Blam is $1 billion business, builds thousands of websites each week, helping entrepreneurs around the world build their businesses. So that's what plays to me in the shower in the morning over and over
When
again.
did you start doing that?
Oh, 10 years ago.
Is this before Dan Pena?
Dan Pena told me about this. So prior to that, I was using more of the Bob Proctor. So what I will say is over the years, I went through a period when I first heard about this sort of stuff. And I think it was Bob Proctor. It was when The Secret, remember The Secret?
Of course, of course, of course.
So I read The Secret, would have been probably, I don't know, 2007, something like that. So I've been in business 5-6 years. And I read The Secret and I'm like, wow, this is brilliant. Woo-woo. I love a bit of woo-woo. Let's try this. But I found it a bit wishy-washy, and a bit like, ooh. So I started digging into some of the people that were in The Secret. Bob Proctor was one of them.
Yes.
John Azareth, what a legend. Loved him, the mind stuff, And so I started following some of these guys. I was always a big Zig Ziglar fan, so I love Zig Ziglar. But then so Bob Proctor, and so I experimented with a lot of this stuff. But as with a lot of things, it kind of drifted away. And then I went through that bad experience with my franchising business. And at the time when I was doing all of that, because I'd achieved a decent amount of success, but I'd done it and then stopped doing it. And then when I look back, I'm like, wow, I stopped doing all this stuff. And I've just had a big business disaster. And I hadn't been doing any of my affirmations. So I started doing it again. But I started really analyzing it, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to find my own way of doing it. And I've kind of been doing it like that ever since. And I guess it is about 10 years now. And each year I've got this is my vision board. I've got my goals sheet, and I've been doing it that way for probably a decade now. So each year I get to the end of the year and I do all this live. So I make myself accountable. So everybody knows what my goals are in my mastermind group. They all know what I'm doing. And at the end of the year, I go, right, these are the ones I achieved. These are the ones I didn't achieve. And then I take it and I've got a gratitude folder. And every year I pop them in the gratitude folder. And, every year there's stuff, I'll go back to that gratitude folder and there's some freaky stuff you see in that and you go, oh my God, that was a goal back then that I didn't achieve. It didn't make it to my next year's goal list, but I did achieve it further down the line.
Exactly.
And it's
Exactly.
freaky.
It is. It is 100%. And thank you so much for sharing this point from a different perspective, because like what you're saying is so, so important. Like sometimes it's wishy-washy, but you're commanding your mind. You have a guard. You're guarding your mind from the right information based on the right goals and based on what you want. And you're seeing it consistently, consciously, that it goes into your subconscious mind, which is really important. I'm so happy that you actually opened this topic because it's really important. And when did you meet Dan Pena?
Ooh, that would have been around about 2016.
2016. Did you go to his workshop at his castle?
Yeah, I went down to London. He was giving a lecture at one of the universities in London. And I went down with a guy who was a franchisee of mine or a partner of mine who'd actually been on the QLA, the Quantum Leap, whatever it is that he does. So he kind of knew of him. And God, he was so rude to him. Dan Pena is he's like, as he is, he's like, he was really rude to him. Didn't give him any kind of, real acknowledgement or respect. He's like, he was in a hurry. I sat next to his wife. We were right at the front. It was a lovely lady. But yeah, but he was exactly what you think he would be. He's no pretense with Dan Pena. That is how he is. He's full on, no messing whatsoever, and he's still going now. He's in his 70s.
That's
he keeps
insane.
promising to give it up, but just going back to one point, do you know
Yes.
in The Secret, John Azaraf talks about that vision. He had a vision board and he put a house on his vision board and then he forgot about it. And then they went to move house and he found the vision board and he forgot about the vision board. That happened to me. However, here's the difference. And this is one of the things that my old man always used to say. He always used to say, it's careful what you wish for, because the universe does move in strange ways. When I had a vision board and I put on there this beautiful Georgian house that I thought would be, my ideal home. And this was years ago. So, and then just like it was the first vision board I ever did actually. And just like with John Azaraf, it got packed away. The same story happened. I pulled it out. There's the house. I looked at the house. I'm like, oh my God. And I showed it to my wife and I said, look at that. The difference was, it wasn't the house that we lived in. I bought this house as our office. So careful what you wish for. We weren't living in it. I was working in it.
Wow, that's insane.
It was crazy. I'm like, wow. Because I showed it to her. She goes, oh, that's Beach House. I went, it's not. That's my vision board from like 5 years ago. Freaky.
Man.
I've forgotten about it. It's virtually the same story. Yeah.
Damn. And man, I mean, like I remember back in the days, Dan Pena. I never went to the Quantum Leap, whatever the mastermind he did, but I loved his content. Not gonna lie to you. stroke a thread in me.
He doesn't mess about, Dan Pena, and that's what I like. I like the directness of the guy, you know.
Yeah.
But I think back in the sort of 90s when he first started doing it, I think he was the most un-PC. He used to get people fighting each other, like
Yes.
actually fighting each other because he says,
Yes.
I mean, some of the stories he tells about, like, you know, going into a cave with a knife to fight a bear, you know, that's some of the stuff he said he did because he was just looking for, in business, he was super extreme. He was looking for that next, you know, high. And he kept trying to find it. He became like an ultra marathon runner. And he just like, he'd just do whatever he could to get the next high. Absolute maniac.
I love that. Well, like that's the one of the things that we talked about in the beginning, man. We got entrepreneurs got to be a maniac, bro.
Yeah, gotta be a maniac.
Grant, as we conclude this discussion, man, what are the key messages or takeaways you want the listeners to carry from your story and insights that you shared today? I mean, we talked about a lot. Appreciate all the knowledge, the experience, the thought, the tips, and yeah, man. Anything that you want to share?
So I think we'll go back to that. You know, you got to work like a maniac. You know,
I love that.
I've never met a lazy entrepreneur. We're all looking for the quickest route to success, but you've got to work your ass off to get there.
Yeah, man. You know, the moment when you said about the affirmations, man, it's so funny. Like I go back and I look at my phone, the affirmations that I had at 2020, every 2 years or every year, I would update my affirmations on my voice note. And I would put a music to it. But what I put to it next to it, I put theta. There's different kind of waves and musics that you can put into your affirmation that up levels the vibration into your affirmation.
Love that. I love
So,
that. Yeah.
so that's maniac, I think.
Yeah, well, that's it. You got to use every tool you can. Every tool you can.
100%, Matt. Grant, thank you so much for today. I love the episode. I can't wait
Great
to share
chat.
this with people, man. And where can people find you, man? How can people find you, connect with you?
Yeah, blam.online is the easiest route to our stuff. If you want to find out about the Blam Partnership Program, it's blampartners.com.
That's awesome, man. Thank you for your time and tips and information, man, and experience. And this was an epic episode.
Cheers, mate.
And that brings us to a close of another episode on the Hassan Bash Show. Thank you for dedicating time to your growth and progress with us today. Each episode is a step toward not just reaching, but exceeding your potential. To ensure you never miss out on another episode or these insights, subscribe to the podcast. For a deeper dive and exclusive content that furthers your journey, sign up for our newsletter at hassanbash.com. That's HassanBash.com. And for a continuous flow of inspiration, make sure to follow us across our socials. Your support through sharing our podcast can inspire and empower others in their journey of progress. So let's build a community of growth together. Until our paths cross again, remember every day is an opportunity to learn, to grow, and move forward. Stay curious, stay inspired, and above all, keep progressing. I'm Hassan signing off. Here's to your journey of endless growth.